Good morning and welcome to our second New Economy Live event of 2020, Calgary in the Era of Digital Transformation, hosted by our research and strategy team at Calgary Economic Development. My name is Jason Ribeiro. I serve as the Director of Strategy at CED, and I will be your host and panel moderator for the next 60 minutes. I want to begin this event by acknowledging the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is home to all of us who live, work, and play in Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We are so happy you could join us today, and we hope the insights and information presented prove useful to you in your role, perhaps as a business leader, navigating a changing corporate landscape, as a parent, guiding your children as they enter into a workforce vastly different than the one you may have entered. But most importantly, as a Calgarian, eager to learn more about the very real challenges and opportunities facing your city's economy. Before we get further into our program for the day, I'd like to invite you to join the conversation on social media using the hashtag #NewEconomy and share any questions, insights, and learnings with your fellow Calgarians online. While the chat function will be closed for today's proceedings, you can post a question or comment using the Q&A function right here in Zoom that we can address during today's event or even offline. It's important that you upvote questions and comments from other attendees, as we will aim to tackle the most popular posts before the hour is up. You can do that by clicking the thumbs up sign next to a post that appears. The New Economy Live series was created to bring together members of the public to learn about our community's economic strategy, Calgary and the New Economy. A few simple rules have underpinned our approach. These events need to be free to attend, citizen-focused, pair you with high-quality research, and feature truly inspiring speakers. And I'm so pleased we get to make good on that today. The vision of Calgary in the New Economy is that Calgary becomes the city of choice for the world's best entrepreneurs who embrace technology to solve the world's greatest challenges, including cleaner energy, safe and secure food, the efficient movement of goods and people, and better health solutions. A place that stands out not because we have all the answers, but because we'll run through a brick wall to get them. That's the city that we're building together, and this truly is your strategy. So as you can see from the screen, the strategy features 4 interconnected pillars that we as a community need to focus on to create economic resiliency in Calgary: talent, place, innovation, and business environment. In February, we kicked off the series at the Center for Newcomers by focusing on the place pillar and discussed how we must view Calgary's new immigrants as economic drivers and actively support diversity and inclusion, which in sum would advance our desire for truly becoming the most livable city in Canada for all. But during today's event, we'll be squarely focused on how we can become Canada's most business-friendly city at a time where the traditional boundaries of business are disappearing as digitization defines new ways of creating, interacting, and working, particularly in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, you will hear a brief research presentation from the International Data Corporation of Canada and CED on how Calgary companies are set to lead a near $18.4 billion digital spend in Alberta through 2022, which will segue nicely into our expert C-suite panel featuring our Team Calgary partners Nutrien, a Calgary-based agriculture business blowing past its e-commerce projections in 2020 and increasingly providing farmers with the data collection tools they need to balance both land productivity and climate change. Athenian, a Calgary-based legal tech company whose software helps law firms manage legal entities in the cloud, and recently closed a $10 million investment in seed and Series A funding. And finally, Orpyx Medical Technologies, a Calgary-based digital health therapeutics and manufacturing company that recently closed a $7.6 million Series A investment round of their own and has been tapped by the government of Alberta to produce 40 million masks right here in the city. These companies embody the vision of Calgary and the New Economy, and I'm thrilled that their senior leaders were able to join us today. We will follow that panel with an audience Q&A to bring you into the conversation and close the event at noon, just in time for lunch. With that, I will turn things over to the newest member of our research and strategy team, our economist, Kate Koplovich, to introduce our featured presenter.
Thanks so much, Jason. As Jason said, Meng Cong from IDC Canada couldn't be with us today, but she's gratefully prepared a brief introduction to IDC Canada and their digital transformation data.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me in this event. My name is Meng and I manage the Market Insights and Analytics team in IDC Canada. It's a great pleasure for me to collaborate with CED and speak about digital transformation, and for me to also introduce IDC Canada and our DX spending guide to you all as well. Okay, jumping right in. First of all, I'd like to talk about who we are and how we came into the picture. We're IDC Canada, the Canadian Office of International Data Corporation, or IDC. We're a global provider of market intelligence, advisory services, and events for the information technology, telecommunications, and consumer technology markets. Or simply put, we provide data, reports, and advisory services for any technology or ICT-related markets. There are a wide range of products that we provide. The 8 main product groups are listed on the right-hand side of the screen. The most common ones are subscription services, where we provide an extensive portfolio of reports about latest market trends, and then trackers that tracks highly segmented data for hundreds of technology markets around the world, and then spending guides that gives you an industry and size view. In addition to that, we also provide custom solutions where we provide customized data and services based on the needs of our clients. The data we offer to CED is more of a combination of spending guide and custom solutions. So how it works is CED obviously understands the digital transformation being imperative and the challenges faced by Canadian enterprises. They uniquely engaged with us to better understand DX spending across CED's strategic industries in Alberta and Calgary. So we know that we have the data in our DX spending guide. However, the data goes down to country level only. So we customize the data with our Canadian market model, business counts and employee counts per StatsCan to model out the spend in Calgary specifically. Okay, here a little intro about what DX Spending Guide is. So it's a data product that answers questions such as what digital transformation is, what are the main technology components, how delivery types, such as whether it's delivered through cloud or on-prem, will drive DX, and what the market trends look like in the next 5 years or so, and what are the largest and fastest growing industry use cases. So as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, that would provide a really extensive amount of data that includes close to 300 use cases across 19 industries and 9 regions, etc. Here, so how is DX defined? Digital transformation is such a popular term that is used by different people across different contexts. However, IDC defines it as the application of third platform and related technologies to fundamentally improve all aspects of society. So for businesses, this means to transform your decision-making process with technology, or to elaborate, use digital or third platform technologies and incorporate those into new systems to help with enhanced experience, improve financial performance, increase productivity by using information. Or to emphasize, something to emphasize is that simply modernizing the technology underpinning existing systems is not really considered as a transformation. Okay, so I mentioned the third platform technologies in my definition, and this is a full list of all the technologies that we consider as third platform. So on the left-hand side, as you can see, the inner ring represents what we call pillar technologies, and that includes cloud, social, big data, and mobility, and the outer ring includes innovation accelerator technologies such as blockchain, AI, IoT, etc. So DX includes all the innovation accelerators and part of the pillar technologies. So in terms of methodology, we have a standard methodology across all spending guide products in IDC. Models are built bottom-up with participation from regional analysts across the world for each one of our products. We leverage inputs from both supply side, such as conversations with vendors we work with, and demand side, such as information from our service. We build on demographics and macroeconomics with third-party data, and we rely on domain expertise and generate forecasts with our standard forecasting tools developed by our central team. So here I'm going to get down to the data a little bit. I'm sure Kate will dive a lot more into details. So pre-COVID, we expected 2020 growth for DX investments to be 17%, and post-COVID, we believe that it will still stay positive at 7% in 2020. So the expectation is the investments for DX will stay resilient and maintain a relatively strong growth in 2020 and also onwards. DX technologies thrive a lot more compared to other non-DX technology investment classes. So in fact, while DX grows by 7% in 2020, we have non-DX declining by 5%. Of course, investments would also get reprioritized. 3D printing seeing a drop-off in the near term, while AR/VR is up by over 100% in 2020. Yeah, so I think that's all I have, and I'll hand it back to you, Kate. Thanks.
Before I dive into the Calgary-specific digital transformation spend data, I just wanted to thank Meng and her team at IDC Canada for working with us for this event. As Meng said, in 2019, CED and IDC Canada worked together to better understand the digital transformation currently going on in Calgary, Alberta, and also Canada, and how that transformation will continue for the next 4 years. We are currently working with IDC Canada once again this year to update the forecast out to 2024 and begin understanding digital transformation investment trends across all these industries. Before I jump into the findings, I did want to explain that the analysis that we did in 2019 was conducted prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what we'll see in our update this year is the effect the COVID-19 pandemic has had on digital transformation. The overarching finding of the study, as you can see, was that $7.5 billion is projected to be spent on digital transformation by 2022 in Calgary alone, which translates to a 20% year-over-year increase through 2022. As Meng noted in her presentation, while we expect these numbers to decrease due to COVID-19, these are still significant numbers and do demonstrate that Calgary companies are innovating and working tirelessly to create new solutions with transformational technology. So I'm sure you're all asking, what industries make up that $7.5 billion investment spending? As you can see from this chart, the energy sector in Calgary will remain a key sector and continue to heavily invest in digital transformation to manage and get ahead of the massive disruption that this industry is currently facing. As the industry deals with evolving consumer demands, tightening regulatory requirements, and climate action, Calgary companies are investing in digital technologies such as drones, Internet of Things, augmented and virtual reality, and autonomous vehicles to improve the safety, sustainability, productivity, and efficiency of their operations. Interestingly, this chart shows that the creative industries and science and life sciences and health are the next two industries forecasted to spend a significant amount on digital transformation. As we know now, more than ever, life sciences companies are pushing the boundaries of their traditional industry constructs through wearable technologies that monitor vitals in real time without intrusive testing, telehealth, and apps that connect you directly to your doctors without in-person consultations. And as you can see, there's also transformation occurring in this other category on this chart. CED focuses its efforts on the 7 industries broken out here. So the other category is made up of other sectors such as accommodation services, water, sewage, and other systems, construction of buildings, and most importantly, retail trade, which includes electronics, appliances stores, furniture stores, gasoline stations, and among other things. We also thought it was important to show a breakdown of digital transformation that is in fact occurring across industries in Calgary and Alberta. It's not just happening in the energy sector. Even though the energy sector makes up a large portion of this pie that you can see, we think it's more impressive that 74% of digital transformation spending will occur outside the energy sector. Our smaller industries, such as the creative industries, life sciences, financial services, and manufacturing, are all innovating. And this continued investment in innovation and transformation across multiple sectors fosters a positive feedback loop of innovation, encouraging diversification of Alberta and Calgary's economy, and brings even more investment and innovation into our home ecosystem. Another way to look at the data is the year-over-year growth in digital transformation. As you can see, the industries with the highest year-over-year spending are agriculture and manufacturing, followed by life sciences and energy. As we're seeing in Calgary and across Alberta, there have recently been significant investments in agriculture innovation with the Thrive Accelerator and startup program partnerships with Olds College and the Canadian Agriculture Partnership. A specific company example based in High River is the Farm Business Network, who created an enterprise management platform that integrates all types of precision agriculture data to reveal profitable insights and keep farm operations organized. This changes the way farmers can interact with commodity markets and understand how their farms can be optimized. The manufacturing sector is also continuously innovating. As many of you have heard, the Calgary company Adibotics uses this transformational technology at the core of their business. Adibotics uses 3D robotics technology to vastly improve the productivity and efficiency of storage, retrieval, order fulfillment, and sortation operations in warehousing. The company recently raised $50 million in a Series C raise led by the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. And investments like this are just another example of adding fuel to the fire that is Calgary's innovation ecosystem. And these innovations are happening in historically traditional industries, drastically upending how those industries used to work. Before I go, and before I hand it back to Jason, I thought it was important to also showcase a few other Calgary and Alberta-based companies, apart from those on the panel today, to tell their story of digital transformation. One that I wanted to highlight was the collaboration between Famhill, Hamel Farms, Red Shed Malting, Canada Malting, and Last Best Brewery and Foods. And they teamed up with the tech company TE Food to use blockchain to improve the traceability of their product from farm as barley to beer in your hand. As we're seeing consumers demand more transparency about where our products come from, and as companies want more information about their product, blockchain technology can provide complete transparency and security to an end user or a manufacturer about a service or good and its journey along the supply chain. Another example is WestJet. How many of us have been caught at an airport with a delayed flight bound to miss a connection? In this stressful situation, you really don't want to spend 20 minutes on the phone with a customer service representative. And imagine if you could get help immediately at your fingertips. That's just what WestJet's AI-powered chatbot, Juliet, does. She's on Facebook Messenger, and you can talk to her immediately to get the help you need. She uses machine learning to accumulate knowledge with every guest interaction to provide more accurate responses to guest queries over time. She improves the guest experience in stressful situations. And she's also pretty good at scheduling travel and recommending places for you to travel based on your travel history. If you want to learn more about any of the companies on this slide, a more detailed case study of each of these companies and more details on the statistics that we've presented here today are available in the Digital Transformation of Calgary Industries report, which we will be sending to all participants following today's webinar. Lastly, before I hand it back to Jason for the panel discussion, I wanted to finish with our contact information in case you have any questions about the content or the data in the presentation today. You can reach Jason and myself at our emails here, or Brian Howden, who's a director at IDC Canada, at these email addresses. Back to you, Jason. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Kate and Meng, for that incredibly insightful presentation. We are so honored to be the first economic development organization in the country to use IDC spending guide data and know that the resulting findings have given us another tool in the toolbox as we navigate a very challenging but opportunity-rich road ahead. I also want to give a quick shout out to Huba Khatun and Nicole Mullings on our team who played a leading role in the report you will receive after the program concludes. I will invite attendees now, as some already have, to make use of the Q&A function below to send comments or questions about DX and make sure in particular to use it during our very next segment. Right now, I'd like to just answer a quick question posed by Greg. What comprises the creative industries as we forecast digital spend, which is a great question. As an emerging sector, the creative industries can be defined both along the very traditional spectrum of film and television. As many of you I'm sure will know, Calgary and Alberta in particular punches above its weight in the overarching film market based on the crews that we have, the facilities we have, like the Calgary Film Center, which is under the Calgary Economic Development umbrella, but also the beautiful scenic skies that you can kind of see behind me right here. Just a beautiful, beautiful landscape that finds itself host to a number of television shows and films. But increasingly on the emerging side in the creative industries, we see interactive digital media taking a big, sharp rise. So that includes things like gaming, animation, other web and video type productions, and we're seeing companies emerging in that space as well. So that fulsome package really comprises the creative industries we're referencing there. So thank you, Greg, for that question. With that, let's dive into the main event, our C-suite panel. Mike Webb is the Executive Vice President and Chief Human Resources and Administrative Officer for Nutrien. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Mike. Adrian Kamara is a lawyer and the Chief Executive Officer at Athenian. Good to see you, Adrian.
Thanks, Jason.
And finally, Dr. Breanne Everett is both a medical doctor and resident at the University of Calgary and the president and co-founder of Orpyx. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. It's great to see you all. So with the time that we have you here, we thought it best to pose a question to all of the panelists to get your take. And the reason that you've all been invited, and I mentioned this earlier, is that you comprise in many ways some of the leading composition of tech companies in those sectors that we mentioned earlier, agribusiness, professional services, and of course, life sciences. And so the first question that I'd like to pick your brain about will go to all of you, and that is, what is the biggest challenge and opportunity that digital transformation poses for your sector? Obviously, you guys own a particular niche within the overall sectors that you represent, but overall, what is that biggest challenge and biggest opportunity that digital transformation poses? And I'll begin with Mike.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. And as it relates to agriculture, I would say the most significant challenge really is the fact that there are a lot of misperceptions about what's happening at the farm today. There are a lot of folks who believe that it would be traditional farming the way that it's been for forever. And if you walked on a farm today, the amount of innovation being enabled by digital technology is remarkable. You can literally see individuals with thumb drives going and plugging it into a John Deere tractor and seeing what coming at the back being a function of what was on that thumb drive, and it's really quite remarkable. So getting individuals to really think about agriculture today and attracting the talent that we need to have attracted to agriculture is obviously a major challenge. At the same time, a great opportunity. As it relates to the opportunities, I would say it really comes down to sustainability. The digital tools that we have today, that are at the farm today, can help our world become a more sustainable place from a food production perspective. There's not, we're not making any more land, and the only way that we are going to be able to, as a world today, to feed the growing population is to make better use out of the farmland that we have today. We can't be cutting down rainforests. We can't be doing any of that. We need to make the most out of the land that we have for farming today. And digital tools can go a very, very long way into ensuring that not only is that land being as productive as it can be, but also the products and services that are being used to farm it are being done in a sustainable way.
That's super interesting, and I think you've touched upon something that I'm going to follow up with you on later, which is really, you started with it, the changing perception of what is largely seen as a traditional industry. The farming experience of someone on that John Deere tractor is very different than one 20, 30 years ago. So I'd like to pick up on that after we give the rest of the panel a crack. Adrian, you're operating in a very similar space, in the legal world, and have clearly identified, a little bit of a cheat code around how we embrace digital transformation to make that operate a little bit better and a little bit more modern. For you, what do you see as the biggest opportunity and challenge that digital transformation poses?
Yeah, so riffing off of what Mike said around people, the technology and innovation and use of digital technologies is actually more advanced on farms than people think it is. In legal, I'd actually flip that around. The workflow is actually much more archaic than people think it is. So, in legal, we still see typewriters to type out on government forms and things like that. Lots of fax machines. There's something called microfiche, which I guess if you're old enough, you've heard about that, but that's still a massive component of data storage in legal. So there's all this analog technology, binders, lots of paper, stuff like that. And so, one of the biggest challenges for innovation and digital adoption in legal is just the quality and the source of the data. It's very easy to underestimate how expensive it is to transform data that is stored in analog format. So what I mean by analog, on binders and even on a PDF, right? It's not structured in the database to get it into that database format where computers can make sense of it and start leveraging it for scale and automation and so on. And so that's one of the biggest challenges in legal. There's also other things around. Lawyers have regulated monopoly on the provision of legal services, and billable hours create negative incentives and so on. But specifically to digital transformation, it really is around the data. The opportunity for digital transformation in legal is massive, like it is in most professional services, and similar to what we're seeing in healthcare with products like Wello and Maple coming out, where just immense transformation of the user experience and immense scaling. That's really the same opportunity in legal. So when we look at the numbers, right? 70% of people cannot access legal services when they need it, right? So that's a product market fit issue. There's not, the means of production and the distribution methods are not getting to the people that need it. And then, a really funny, I kind of joke about this one, but according to a lot of consumer reports, the only industries that perform worse in terms of consumer user experience than legal are, and I know WestJet's a sponsor here, but airlines and utilities. So we're way at the bottom in terms of user experience. So there's huge opportunities around access and distribution, and then leveraging technology to improve user experiences.
I know a ton of people instantly about 45 seconds ago were Googling frantically microfiche to figure out exactly what that was, and that tells you everything you need to know about the salient point you just made. And I think it is, I want to pick up on that note of access, because that is something that often is brought up within the life sciences healthcare sector, which you play in, Breanne. And so from your perspective, you're wearing, I don't see them as distinct, and I don't know if you do as well, but you're, medical resident and a doctor, but also, leading this very, very innovative company. From both sides of the spectrum, what do you see as the biggest opportunity and challenge as it's posed to life sciences?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting time to be in the medical device space. Just as with any industry right now, we're seeing massive transformation with digitization of a lot of different aspects of healthcare. that was something that was happening in the background already. You know, for example, Orpyx is focused on the delivery of a digital connected health tool prior to COVID and this last very, very different world and year that we're living in. But COVID has certainly accelerated a lot of that transition to more digital, remote, deinstitutionalized access to healthcare. So whereas we used to primarily practice medicine in more of an institutional setting, so physician's office or a hospital where there's a direct human to human in-person communication between a patient and a provider, we're just seeing this massive transformation in care where there's new ways of delivering that information. And that's been accelerated by tools that allow us to collect better data in the field. And that could be data around somebody's vital signs, their physical or physiological parameters that kind of give us some sort of insight into their health. We are getting a lot better at analyzing massive amounts of data that can come from those types of devices. We're getting better at communicating digitally, like this event, for example, using different telecommunications platforms to be able to communicate better and more like you are dealing with someone directly where you might not actually be in the same room. And then also just remote delivery of care and advent in new services for the delivery of care, not in necessarily that sort of institutional environment. So it opens up this huge opportunity to be sharing different and more data and being more efficient with healthcare resources. There is a challenge to that though, because if you think about how much that can open up, how more efficient the economy can be and the engagement with healthcare resources can be, there's also this huge challenge of knowing what information to provide to who and when. So if you take the example of a digital device, the use of the data that's coming from that device is very different depending on if you're a patient, if you're a physician, or if you're an insurer. And so there's many stakeholders involved, and the reasons why people might want to interact with that data differ depending on the device and the use case. You know, a simple example would be a heart rate monitor. So heart rate monitors are used, you know, very generally within the population for health and fitness monitoring. It might be that a physician wants to use that for dosing certain medications, and maybe an insurer wants to use it to assess somebody's mortality or likelihood of mortality. Like there's very different ways that that information can be utilized. And so I think it's really incumbent on the people that are really innovating with this within this space to understand who is consuming this information, how is it to be consumed, how is it to be presented, so that above all, we're helping, doing no harm, and democratizing data, but not confusing the matter. So doing that very well is going to be something that continues to be a huge focus, not only of our business, but really any business that's playing within that sort of digitization of healthcare space.
You make a really good point, and I'm seeing sort of a common thread around this, you know, access, democratization, you know, who gets the information and how, and, you know, you guys are certainly pulling your weight in that regard, but it also requires, you know, the business environment to adapt to provide maybe those bridging or brokering investments to make that possible. You know, we have some questions related to talent that we'll certainly pick up in the Q&A portion. But you know, this digital transformation actually caused not only Calgary Economic Development, but SAIT and other post-secondaries to really understand, oh wow, we don't have the right infrastructure to support companies that want to scale and leverage digital transformation to provide, in many ways, better access, better services, better efficiencies for our economy. And so I want to run with that. You know, Breanne has brought up this notion of the information provided to who and when. And, you know, Mike, companies within the agribusiness sector are certainly part of the fabric and ethos of Calgary, of Alberta, and often viewed as part of a more traditional industry or sector. And what comes with that is a proud culture, a sort of rich heritage and identity that is born in many ways here out of that industry. And so with so many of your roles and business processes shifting to digital, how are you planning to continue to evolve your business, embrace this digital transformation, but give the right information, prompts, and access to your talent and future talent while maintaining that strong culture and identity? Because I figure there's some negotiating and thoughtfulness that's going to be required to do that effectively. How does that strike you?
Yeah, well, Jason, it's a great question, and I think that that Nutrien has a very large retail organization in addition to a large manufacturing organization, and that retail organization literally employs thousands of agronomists. And those agronomist jobs have always typically been, that trusted advisor to a farmer, being able to dispense the knowledge necessary for that farmer customer to be successful. And there would be some that would say, hey, isn't that going to the digital tools that are coming available? Could that disintermediate that agronomist? And how do you manage that as an organization? And the way that we look at it is that this really enhances our agronomist's ability to be effective in terms of being able to retain data, being able to efficiently communicate data, and meet the needs of a very sophisticated customer base. Again, what I was mentioning earlier at the outset is that agriculture has become very, very, very sophisticated because individuals are running businesses, and those businesses need to compete around the world. I mean, our agricultural products need to compete globally. So these need to be sophisticated, efficient businesses. So being able to, operate effectively with them is the key. And the technology is not disintermediating the agronomist. If anything, it is building the agronomist job, making it more important and more impactful. And also, it's allowing us as an organization to be able to recruit talent that wants to be able to use these tools. I mean, the individuals who are joining the workforce today, they want to be working with digital tools. And we need to be able to provide them those digital tools to have the rewarding career that they want to have.
I think that the opportunity you've posed with technology is a super fascinating one because within the Calgary economy, it's not about deviating from some of these core sectors that we see are still going to be able to provide, I think, in many ways, the advancement of this digital spend, capital investment, et cetera. Obviously, we're going through a bit of a transition within the energy sector, certainly within agribusiness, as you mentioned, within relation to climate change. And so that we don't get so far down the path of digital transformation and tech potentially as a panacea, Greg has raised another great point. You're growing globally and you're using technology to bridge these very diverse geographies. I know we were having a conversation about Brazil before the panel started. What is the technology and digital transformation kind of not providing you? Like where can it be? Where can it be better? Where's the room still to grow for Nutrien right now?
Well, I'd say where the room to grow is really kind of that B2B interface between ourselves and our customers. We set what we thought was a very ambitious goal of $500 million in revenues between Nutrien and its customers on the retail side of things. And we have, on any given year, about $16 billion of revenues between our customers and ourselves on the retail side. And we thought that was ambitious and a stretch target for us. And we got through that very early in the year in April, and we decided to double it. And we're well on our way to achieving that target by the end of this year. And so where the opportunity really is that kind of that business to business interface, and where we see that growing, where we become an easier organization for our customers to do business with. And that's what we want. We don't want paper. We don't want things that, gum up the system. We want a clean, efficient, relationship between ourselves and our customers that is enabled by digital tools that reduces bureaucracy, reduces administrative time, and again, at the end of the day, makes it easier on both parties.
Speaking of reducing bureaucracy and less paper and not gumming up the system, Adrian, Athenian has touted that its software is for paralegals by paralegals. And I think the impression most folks may have is that the paralegal, like the nurse, like the teacher, is often an underappreciated or in many ways underserved role. And so I'll throw a little bit of a two-parter at you. What gave you the foresight to focus on building a business that gives superpowers to that role in particular? And secondly, how did you ensure that the implementation of your product, which is cloud-based, changed the necessary behaviors and perceptions of the ways things were traditionally done on typewriters and microfiche, et cetera?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer those two questions with separate answers, but it might sort of meander together.
Go for it.
Yeah, so why did we build for paralegals and not lawyers? So, these are sort of important, important processes in product strategy, in digital technology that I think are going to be increasingly, or have been increasingly new to the Calgary business community. When you're looking at an entire industry and thinking, how are we going to totally rewire this industry so that it operates better for everybody, you have to think asymmetrically about that and laterally about that. So, the conventional approach might be, well, let's build software for lawyers and not paralegals because they have budget and they have decision-making authority and so on and so on. And so, when you look at it asymmetrically, the way we looked at it and why we built for paralegals was really two reasons. One, paralegals are managing an enormous amount of structured data. So going back to my earlier comment around sort of the condition of the information. And so that made, scaling into it easier from an adoption perspective and from a time to value perspective. And the other reason is because they, paralegals are operating more repeatable workflows than lawyers are. And so those two conditions really allowed us to build a product that we would get much faster adoption on, because we can, if we build them a tool that makes a workflow that they are executing 10 or 20 or 30 times a day, then they're getting, that value multiplied every single day. Whereas lawyers are, executing much more divergent and various workflows in a single day. And so, those are really the two reasons why we built for paralegals. And, I think technology, when you're watching a technology emerge, it's always surprising how it disrupts and sort of the dimensions and vectors where the disruption comes from. And, when you think about, a really big company like Amazon, everybody thinks that Amazon is an e-commerce company. It's not. It's a cloud computing company. AWS is the most valuable company in the world, and it's sitting inside of Amazon. And so it's very sort of deceiving where the value is and from what vector the disruption's coming from. And so, then on the other question, how do we, ensure, successful implementation, successful adoption, and so on? That's a really hard question and a really big question. And half of our organization, literally half or more of the people in our company, their jobs in various forms is to ensure that our customers get value out of our platform as quickly as possible. And so, that looks like data migration. We have a phenomenal data migration team, customer success, training, and so on. One of the big sort of challenges that we find there, particularly when we're working with antiquated industries like legal, is this, and you'll get this in other business environments as well, is sort of this expectation or demand that all software be infinitely customized to their particular workflow or their particular use case. And so we spend a lot of time educating our customers on we see many thousands or tens of thousands of organizations that are executing this workflow. We can actually help you do it better. And getting them from A to B on that, requires a lot of effort and training and content and so on. But that's that delta between how you're working and how you should be working. When we can get our customers from A to B on that, that's where that 10x value return ROI comes from.
Well, thank you for that. And I think it's you know, the importance of scaling is and having a sort of sustainable way to get there is often something that, you know, is missing from folks that have the great idea. So the ability to pair a great idea with a model that actually scales to the point of 10x, et cetera, is super important. I want to go back to the chat, and Marvelous has asked a really great question. You know, as more and more digital technologies emerge in various sectors, what plans are available to educate Calgarians about not only the cutting edge and disruptive technologies, but particularly for those that potentially could be less tech savvy? And, you know, I want to make a very clear statement that remains a huge focus for Calgary economic development, one that I think is being supported by many of the companies that are either, you know, training these folks themselves, doing the long-term talent recruitment, but really investing, as I mentioned earlier, in the brokers, the infrastructure needed. And so, you know, in the last couple of months, we launched in partnership with SAIT's new School of Advanced Digital Technology, a digital transformation talent hub. And the focus of it is exactly, you know, the crux of your question, Marvelous, is, you know, as someone who is a former teacher myself and a doctoral candidate in education leadership, we need to start at K-12. You know, the part of the challenge that we have with technology and from a literacy perspective is that if it's being introduced in the workplace at 23 or at university at 21 or 19, folks are pretty much baked in terms of their understanding of technology and the creative processes and the cultural nuance needed. And so if we can start at K-12, which is what the DX Talent Hub aims to do, and then carry through to corporate leadership training, so on and so on, that's going to be one of the best shots at bringing along our community from a talent perspective. And so I suspect that you'll see more and more of these investments in the future. I'd like to go to Breanne now around, you know, that vision for the future that you had with Orpyx. You know, I just talked to Adrian about scaling. You know, oftentimes when a company scales, we get accustomed to seeing the accolades and the raises. I mentioned, you know, your raise, but also the very wonderful press conference you participated in earlier. But sometimes we can forget what catalyzed, you know, that company's formation and the big problems, you know, your folks and products are wanting to address. So could you please walk us through, you know, the early days of Orpyx and the role that technology and digital transformation within your sector played when you were founding your company?
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, I think the experience that I've had with Orpyx and how Orpyx came to be is really sort of a testament to the fact that, you know, everyone's an innovator or can be an innovator, and no matter what sector you choose to work and play in, you're always sort of the ears and eyes on the ground wherever you are for new ways of approaching things, new ways of, for example, digitizing different offerings and using technology to allow us to do more stuff, do it better, do it in different locations. And so the company was founded out of seeing a problem firsthand in the clinical world. I had done my MD at the University of Calgary and then started my training in plastic and reconstructive surgery. And in the course of that training, was seeing and caring for people every single day who had diabetes and diabetic complications in their feet from the disease. And what was clear to me is that we were dealing with this so frequently that I knew it must be a big problem. I really wasn't aware of the size of the problem, but I knew that I was seeing it a lot, and that meant that it must be pretty big. Every single day when you're on call in that world, you're getting called to see patients who have wounds on their feet, who have had partial or complete amputation of a limb from diabetes. And what was clear is that we were providing advice on offloading those people's legs, so trying to take pressure off their feet. Ultimately, the reason that wounds exist in people with diabetes is that they can't feel their feet. They lose feeling. It's a disease called peripheral neuropathy. They can't feel their feet. They can't feel when they're hurting themselves. That's something we refer to as a loss of protective sensation. And so if you can imagine that the part of your body that sees most of the force and trauma throughout the day is insensate or can't feel, you're prone to hurting yourself. And so no matter what we tell patients in a situation like that, they just do not actually have the nervous system function in their feet to be able to do better. And so it became quite clear that if we had a technology that allowed us to measure and monitor what their nervous system or nerves in their feet are no longer doing, we could get ahead of the problem in the first place. And so this was actually pretty early on. Like when you think about digitization of healthcare, the company was actually founded in 2010. So the rise of wearable technologies, even the health and fitness space, was very, very early on. Fitbit was not a household name. Really, the only wearable that had existed up until that point was that earliest version of the Nike running monitor. And so a lot has happened in the world since then, but the whole concept was, can you have an on-body solution that supplements for somebody's own physiology? And it was like one thing sort of led to the next. A team was formed, and then that team's grown and learned over time. The world's grown and learned over time. And it's like right now we're at the point where there now is like this strong product market fit, but it's taken like a really long time to get to that point where there's just like all of this confluence of what you need to make something succeed all at the same time.
I think meeting the moment, like you said, is really important. And it seems to be like you've really done that all the way from, the Nike monitor all the way to now where wearables are a lot more publicly accessible, democratized, et cetera. And you've certainly found a way to carve out a product market fit here. A question for, and we'll get into some of the Q&A here. One of the ones that I want to draw upon in a moment from both Chris and Mike is around the top skill sets, just very listed very quickly, that your industries are requiring or needing. But for both either Breanne or Adrian, what is the role of privacy play? We've talked about digitization. We've talked about probably some of the gaps, Adrian, where people were dealing with paper and information gets kind of lost. Now that we're focusing on digital, what is the role of privacy as you embrace DX and technology?
Yeah, so we get this question a lot around security, is how it's described in business software more than privacy. Privacy is a little bit more of a consumer product concern. So on security, so there's a number of different ways you can manage that and sort of levels. We have what's called SOC 2 certification. We have an auditor that's constantly trying to hack our internal systems and executing like dummy phishing attacks on our company and things like that. So we are constantly testing our own security systems and so on. When you look at business digital transformation, the old way of doing something is typically substantially less secure than modernizing it and digitizing it and putting it into the cloud. And so businesses often conflate control with security. That they have their information on a hard drive in their office, it's more secure because they can control it than it is if it's in the cloud and they can't physically go see it. But without getting into too kind of technical of language, it's there's several layers of redundancy, several layers of security, and really your data is being stored. Again, going back to Amazon and AWS, your data is being stored in the same place where banks store their data now, and very large companies like Nutrien would store their data. And so the amount of security that's around those facilities and around the applications and around the infrastructure is orders of magnitude greater than you could ever provide to your own business, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think that level setting is really required because people do conflate the fact that, because we're embracing digital transformation of technology, somehow it's less secure. But how secure is a piece of paper that gets misplaced. So I think that's helpful. I'm just going to push right ahead very quickly to the question on talent for each of you, just rapid fire. If you could list the top 3 skill sets that are going to be right now in demand or in the future in demand for your businesses, what would they be? And I'll start with Mike.
Yeah, sure. I would say STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Individuals who have a strong background in those areas. Also, Nutrien feels that we have an important role to play as it relates to better diversity and inclusion in agriculture, where agriculture historically has lagged. So we need more diversity and inclusion in ag, and that's something that we're looking for. And then lastly, it is a very, very, very competitive world that we live in. And we all are going to do more and more compete with all parts of the world. And so individuals who are truly passionate, purpose and meaning means something. The importance of sustainable agriculture, the importance of getting digital tools in the right hands and maximizing that and really pushing that innovation. Those are the individuals that we're looking for.
Awesome. Adrian, top 3 skill sets real quick.
Yeah, so, I'm going to be pretty contrarian. Humanities. Skill sets to be a product manager, to be a copywriter, things like that, but with technology literacy. It's super hard to get those 2 things together. And also, as Mike said, with substantiated passion for your category. It's becoming so obvious, the delta between companies who have employees that are really passionate about what they're working on and those that aren't. The performance is night and day, and management and boards are really pushing down the desire for passionate, engaged employees in the organization.
Plug for the humanities, always welcome. Breanne, last word to you, 30 seconds.
Sure. Yeah, so definitely developers, data scientists, and then we're growing the company in a bit of a different way. So we actually have partnerships for this, but definitely remote care personnel, so nurses and physicians. And then I would say just in terms of unifying, so kind of to the point of humanities, background in humanities, that what we really look for is self-motivation and do you have a fire under your ass? I will not build it for you. You have to have it. You have to come with it. That's something that you cannot teach. So that's sort of like a unifying feature, I'd say, across the board. If you wanted to be in a space that moves quickly, you need to be on your feet to sort of assess the landscape and adjust appropriately. That's sort of a key factor.
So you've heard it here first, Calgarians. A fire under your ass is really what's needed here. That concludes our Q&A session today. I just want to say thank you to Mike, Adrian, and Breanne for not only participating today, but for your commitment to shaping the city's business environment for the better by leveraging technology. And so thank you once again. I'd also like to thank Meng and her colleagues at IDC Canada for their global leading insights as we navigate a new digital era. For everyone on the CED side, thank you very much. As Kate mentioned, you will all be receiving a copy of the full report, Digital Transformation of Calgary Industries, once the event has concluded. You should also keep your eyes peeled for 2 future New Economy live events this year, focusing on both talent and innovation. Before we leave, I'd just like to give a quick plug for our signature event, Economic Outlook, on October 21st, which traditionally brings together over 1,500 business, government, and community leaders to hear about the future economic trends and forecasts for our city, province, and nation. This year, we're bringing the experience to you virtually, and we'll focus on how our economy moves from pandemic to paradigm shift, and let you hear from speakers like Todd Hirsch, Pierre Cleroux, Mayor Naheed Nenshi, Minister Doug Schweitzer, and our CEO, Mary Moran. Most importantly, that's October 20th, as I'm reminded from the screen, October 20th. Once again, October 20th. Most importantly, all net proceeds will be donated to the Calgary Region's Canadian Mental Health Association and Calgary Food Bank. You can find more information at calgaryeconomicdevelopment.com. So we like to end every New Economy Live the same way. Today will be no different. We like to play a video we produced that sums up everything wonderful about this community with more visuals than words. You know it when you see it. We can show you better than we could probably tell you. You can find it on YouTube or in the chat on our Calgary Economic Development channel, and it's titled This is Calgary. So if you're thinking about what to tell a colleague abroad who's looking to relocate their family, if you're thinking about what you could show an investor who's contemplating where to grow their company, or what you could give your son, daughter, niece, or nephew to show them all we're building in this city for them, show them this. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
I know a place that's as tough as it is compassionate, a place with an unwavering work ethic and immeasurable heart. Qualities woven into the fabric of this city and its people. You see it in the day-to-day moments and the moments it's needed most. This place is Calgary, Alberta, a future-proof city, diverse in culture and diverse in economy. You might know it for its oil, farming, the Red Mile, or the greatest outdoor show on earth. But you'd only be scratching the surface. Calgary is a whole lot more. Anything is possible here. See, if you've got a dream and you're willing to do the work, Calgary has your back. The proof is in the people. The entrepreneurs that built this city, the innovators, risk takers, and artists. The proof is in the work they've done and keep on doing. It's in the culture they've created that keeps on inspiring. It's in the tech, energy, and life sciences sectors where cutting-edge, industry-disrupting work is being done every day. The proof is in our small businesses, a lot of them not so small anymore. This is the most livable city in all of North America, and one of the most livable cities on the planet. 5th, actually, but who's counting? So what's that mean? It means clocking out at 5 and being in the mountains for 6. It's a short commute that's easy or fun or breathtaking. Calgary is a city with a proud heritage and a limitless future. And if you want to be a